My research is looking at young people's experiences of having a family member in prison. It's estimated that approximately 27,000 children each year experience parental imprisonment in Scotland. That's more than experience divorce in the family. You might not think that you know someone who's been affected by this, but you probably do. Think back to when you were at school. How many children did you know whose parents were divorced? So how many children, therefore, might you have known who had a family member in prison but had chosen to keep it hidden? The first research that took place on partners of prisoners took place in 1965, but by the 1980s and 90s, children of prisoners had become known as the orphans of justice or forgotten victims of crime. While this is changing, research is very quantitative in nature. There are links between parental imprisonment and a risk of future offending, antisocial behaviour, mental health issues and behavioural problems. But what are the stories behind these numbers? What are the actual experiences of these children and young people? My research is looking at young people aged 13 to 25 who have or have had a parent or a sibling in prison. Specifically, it's looking at what family means to these young people and how they experience family when a member is in prison. It will also consider how they've dealt with the imprisonment and what support, if any, has been available to them. The first stage of my data collection has involved working for 16 months with a group of young people who are involved in an arts collective known as KIN. There's 8 young people aged 16 to 25 who've experienced familial imprisonment, along with members of staff from a third sector organisation, Vox Luminous, and a range of artists. I'm currently carrying out in-depth, semi-structured interviews with these young people. My research is in a data collection phase at the moment, but early emerging findings suggest that prison is able to reach out into the lives of children and siblings of prisoners, altering some of their day-to-day behaviour and habits. Firstly, it changes how they communicate with their imprisoned family member. It changes how they communicate with others round about them, the stories that they tell to explain the absence of the family member. It also imposes restrictions on their time and movement when they're waiting for a phone call from prison or they're going in for a visit. Secondly, it can change the role that these young people play within the family. They feel more responsible or parental towards the parent who's in prison, and they can feel a greater responsibility towards the non-imprisoned parent and their siblings. And thirdly, there's a lack of support and opportunity for these young people to reach out and connect with others who have experienced familial imprisonment. There are programmes in schools where children who've dealt with loss through bereavement or divorce can go and attend, but the stigma that's attached to imprisonment means that this group of young people often don't reach out for help and advice when they may need it. It could be argued that children and siblings of prisoners are still the forgotten victims of crime, as well as filling a gap in the academic literature by adding young people's voices to familial imprisonment research. This research feeds into policy discussions to improve experience and support of young people experiencing this in the future.